Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, so today we're going all the way to Japan.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's this scandal that's just like exploding over there
Yeah.
in their entertainment industry, and well, it involves this really beloved TV personality
Yeah.
and this major network.
TV network. Okay.
Yeah, and the accusations are pretty serious. It's making people kind of question, well, more than just one person's actions.
Right. Right. It's like if there's this much smoke, there has got to be some fire somewhere.
Exactly. So to give you all some background, our main source for this whole deep dive is a series of articles from this Japanese magazine, Shockwaves.
Okay. I've heard of that. Yeah.
And so think of it like a Japanese people magazine. It's got that kind of reach. But they also do some really hard-hitting investigative.
Oh wow. So they're not afraid to.
Exactly, and they've been really digging into these allegations against Masahiro Nakai. Maybe not really, but all Japanese like been hosting these huge variety shows.
Wow. So like a big deal?
Huge. To put it in perspective, imagine someone like Jimmy Fallon here in the U.S.
Oh, okay. So this is not some small-time celebrity we're talking about.
Not at all, and that's why these accusations are hitting so hard.
I bet. So what exactly are these accusations?
Well, the initial accusation, it actually came out back in June 2023 from a woman in her 20s. The magazine's calling her Exco to protect her identity, of course.
Makes sense. So what did Exco say?
Her account is pretty damning. She claims that what happened with Nakai caused her really severe distress, like both mentally and physically.
That's awful.
Yeah, she even said she was forced to quit her job because of it.
That's really serious.
Right, and her exact quote to the magazine was, "I still can't forget it." So clearly this wasn't just some minor thing. It had a real impact on her life.
Wow. And it sounds like there might be even more to the story.
There is. What makes it even more complicated is the alleged involvement of this Fuji television producer. The article is just called A. Exo says he was involved in the incident too, and that she reported everything, his role included, to the Fuji TV executive, like right after it happened.
So she went straight to the top, essentially.
Yep. But here's the thing.
What's that?
The accusation is that Fuji TV basically just swept it all under the rug. They chose to protect their own instead of, actually dealing with the situation.
Oh, that's so frustrating. A classic cover-up.
Yeah, and it's adding so much fuel to the fire, It's making people question their accountability, like as a network.
Makes you wonder what else they might be hiding, right? If they're willing to cover this up.
Exactly. And the journalist who broke the story, he actually confronted a female announcer at Fuji TV. Pretty well-known one, actually. She had direct contact with Exco.
So he was really digging for answers.
Yeah, he wouldn't let it go. And the whole thing, it had been simmering for, well over a year.
Yeah.
Right? But then, in January this year, Nakai goes and appears on this new TV program called Matsumoto.
Ironic, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So what happened on the show?
He issues this pretty brief kind of vague apology about the scandal.
An apology. But over a year later, and right when he's starting a new show, that timing seems, I don't know, convenient.
Right. It makes you wonder, was it genuine remorse? Or was it just like a calculated PR move to try and save his image?
I mean, it's impossible to know for sure.
Right.
But it's definitely a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah, because the public wasn't buying it. The reaction was pretty negative, actually. But then something else happened.
What's that?
A second victim came forward.
Wow, a second victim. So this is getting even bigger.
Yeah. So now there's a whole new layer to this whole story.
And what does this new accusation say?
Well, this second victim, she alleges that she was essentially offered up to Nakai by Fuji TV executives. Offered up.
What do you mean?
Like, they basically presented her to him at this gathering at a hotel suite about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. So we've got multiple potential victims now, a major network potentially involved in a cover-up. This is getting really messy.
It is. And there's more. She claims that this Japanese comedian, Downtown Matsumoto, was also at the gathering.
Downtown Matsumoto. Wait, like the famous comedian?
Yeah, him. So now you've got another huge celebrity tangled up in this whole mess.
Things just keep getting more and more complicated. So where does this Weekly Bunshun magazine go with this?
Well, they start talking about this thing they call the Jinshi system.
The what?
Jinshi system. It's, I'm going to need some help explaining this one.
Yeah, me too. What is that?
So Jinja, it roughly translates to tribute system.
A tribute system, like in ancient times.
Well, not exactly. In this context, they're alleging that favors, including sexual favors, were like expected to be offered up to those in higher positions within the network.
Oh, so like a system of exploitation. That's what it sounds like. They're painting this really disturbing picture of like a power imbalance where people in authority are abusing their power for their own gain.
This is heavy stuff. We've gone from a celebrity scandal to something that sounds really systemic.
Yeah, it's a lot to process. We've barely scratched the surface, honestly.
Well, I'm definitely hooked now. We need to dig deeper into this June system and see what it all means.
Let's do it. We'll unpack all that and more right after this break.
This whole June system, that's really the core of it, isn't it? It goes way beyond just this one scandal. It makes you think about how power works, you know, especially in a place like Japan.
Yeah, and before the break, you were saying that this system, it might not be just a Fuji TV thing. Like it could be something deeper in Japanese culture.
That's the question, isn't it? See, Japan has this long history of, well, hierarchical structures. In society and in the workplace, there's this thing called the senpai-kohai system.
Senpai-kohai?
Yeah, it's where, like, seniority is really, really important. The seniors, the senpai, they have a ton of influence and authority over their juniors, the kohai.
So it's kind of like a mentorship thing.
Yeah.
But maybe with, like, a more intense power dynamic.
You got it. In theory, it should be about guidance, right? Support. But sometimes it can create an environment where, well, exploitation can happen. The lines get blurred, you know, expectations get all messed up. And look, we're not saying the system itself is bad.
Right.
But just like any system, it can be twisted, you know, used the wrong way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So are you saying this Juni system, it's like a messed up version of senpai-kohai, where favors, even sexual favors become like the norm?
It's one way to look at it. But we got to stress this. We're talking about allegations. Okay.
Of course, yeah.
But if it's true, it means Jinyu isn't just some random thing at Fuji TV. It's like it reflects this deep power imbalance, maybe even within Japanese society as a whole.
It's pretty disturbing to think about all those people who might be stuck in those situations, feeling like they can't speak up, especially with that cultural emphasis on respecting your superiors.
Oh, absolutely. It's tough to come forward anywhere, you know, to accuse someone with power. But in Japan, with all that emphasis on harmony, respect for authority, it's got to be so much harder. That pressure to stay silent, it's huge.
It makes me think about, you know, how this isn't just a Japan thing, sadly. Look what happened in Hollywood.
Yeah.
The hashtag #MeToo movement. Abuse of power. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it takes so much courage for victims to come forward.
No doubt. It's a global problem. Power dynamics, exploitation, it happens everywhere. It just looks different depending on where you are, you know? What the scandal shows us, I think, is that silencing victims abusing power, it's a human problem. It needs attention.
So, given all this, what do you think this means for Nakai, for Fuji TV, for like Japanese entertainment in general?
Well, Nakai's career, it's at a turning point, that's for sure. Even if the accusations are never, you know, proven in court, his reputation's taken a hit. People see him differently now.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine him coming back from this, really. What about Fuji TV? What happens to them?
Well, they've lost a lot of trust, haven't they? Public trust. And for a media company, that's everything.
Yeah.
Advertisers, they might start to get nervous, you know? There could be some real financial fallout.
Beyond all that, though, do you think any real change could come from this? In the industry, I mean.
It could be a turning point. It started a conversation, hasn't it? All over Japan.
Yeah.
About workplace culture, power, consent.
Right.
And that open conversation, that's the first step to making things safer, more fair for everyone.
It's almost like Japan's having to look in the mirror now. Facing some uncomfortable truths, what needs to happen to stop this from happening again in Japan, but everywhere, really.
Ugh, the million-dollar question, right? There's no easy answer.
But I think it starts with education, awareness, and being willing to, like, challenge how things are. You know, creating a culture where respect and accountability are at the top.
But like giving people the power to speak up, holding people in power accountable, making sure these kinds of abuses just aren't tolerated.
That's it. It's about going beyond just reacting to scandals. It's about preventing them.
Yeah.
This whole thing in Japan, it's awful, but it's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
A chance to do things differently.
This deep dive has been intense, for sure. We started with what seemed like a regular celebrity scandal, but
It's so much bigger than that.
it really is. It shows that even the most famous people can do bad things. And power, when it's not kept in check,
Well,
it corrupts.
yeah. And it's made us think about the systems,
Yeah.
you know, the ones that allow this stuff to happen in the first place. So what can we do, as individuals,
Yeah.
to change those systems, to make real change?
First thing, and maybe the most important thing, believing victims. Their stories, they're often ignored, dismissed. And that lets abusers keep on abusing. We got to create a space where victims feel safe coming forward, a space where they're supported.
It's about changing the whole culture, really. Not just waiting for something bad to happen and then reacting. We need to build a world where this stuff just doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And with believing victims, like we were saying, it goes hand in hand with holding people accountable, especially those in power. No matter how famous they are, how much influence they have, they got to face the consequences.
No one's above the law, right? This whole situation, it makes me think about how important journalists are. If it were for people like M from that magazine, this whole thing might have stayed hidden.
Oh, for sure. Investigative journalism, that's like essential for a healthy society. Speaking truth to power, making sure institutions are held responsible, giving a voice to the people who've been silenced. Yeah.
We all have a responsibility too, right? As people who read the news, watch the news, we got to be smart about what we're consuming. Support good journalism. Demand better from the stories we see.
Be critical, be curious. Don't just take things at face value. Ask questions like, whose voice is missing from this? What are the power dynamics going on behind the scenes?
So we've got believing victims, holding the powerful accountable, the role of the media. What else can we do to make real, lasting change?
Education, awareness. We need to be talking about this stuff openly and honestly. Power, consent, what happens when authority goes unchecked?
Right.
And not just like whispering about it. These conversations need to happen everywhere, in our homes, schools, workplaces.
So that's not taboo anymore.
Exactly. We need to make it okay for people to speak up when they see something wrong and, just build respect and accountability into how we interact with each other day to day.
It's about changing the whole culture.
Right. Yeah, it's about moving beyond just putting out fires. It's about preventing them in the first place. This whole thing in Japan, as awful as it is, it's a chance for all of us to learn, to do better.
This has been a pretty heavy deep dive, but really eye-opening. It reminds us that we all have a part to play in making the world a better, more just place.
It might seem overwhelming, but every little thing helps. Speaking up when you see injustice, supporting people who've been hurt, just educating ourselves and others, we can all be part of the solution.
And if this deep dive has got you thinking, if you have questions, please talk about it with your friends, family, whoever. Share your thoughts, listen to what others have to say.
This scandal in Japan, it's a wake-up call. Not just for the entertainment world, but for everyone. It's a reminder that we got to keep working, keep pushing for a world where this stuff is just a bad memory.
That's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for listening, everyone. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking the tough questions.